So, of course, you have your show coming out as well. What are we going to learn about you, about Brooks, that's going to take us by surprise, you think?
I think that the show is, it reveals a lot about, relationship things that I've been dealing with privately that nobody knows about, and just, life post-divorce and living with my sisters in our 20s. It's sort of like a Sex in the City meets Swamp People. We're from the deep, deep South, and we all live in Manhattan now, and we're chasing our dreams. And so,
and you're all stunning, by the way.
What, I'm the prettiest, right? No, just kidding.
Yes, of course.
I'm kidding.
All equally gorgeous. And are you still single and ready to mingle right now? Anyone you're interested in maybe, meeting inside?
No, I mean, you never know. I am single and ready to mingle, for sure.
I like that. Yeah. We'll see it play out on the show.
Lauren Sanchez and Jeff Bezos' $10 million Venice wedding exposed the shocking truth behind the billionaire romance, so we really need to talk about Lauren Sanchez and Jeff Bezos and the absolutely unrelatable reality they have built around themselves. Because this is more than a wedding, this is more than a romance, this is what happens when endless money meets endless attention. And the internet cannot look away. Lauren Sanchez is engaged to Jeff Bezos, who, depending on the day and stock prices, is worth anywhere between $200 billion and who knows, maybe even more. By the time this video finishes buffering because Amazon Prime is the one thing that none of us can stop using, and a few days ago a video came out, and while it was supposed to show them being in love, showing off that billionaire, what it actually showed was something far stranger. Jeff Bezos looked like he was blinking in Morse code. Like, help me someone. Lauren Sanchez was all over him like a vine clinging to a golden tower. She kissed him, she posed, she stared at the camera as if she was in a fragrance ad. And Jeff stood there like he might have taken something, or simply had enough of this Hollywood billionaire circus, and the second we all saw it, the thought was the same. This was not intimacy, this was a performance. This was not a moment between two people, this was content, and maybe this is just how life works. When you are marrying someone with that much money, maybe this is the price of access. Maybe Lauren Sanchez, who was never really super famous before, who was successful, but not iconic, maybe she feels like this is her moment. And she is going to work every single second of it. And if we are being honest, if any of us had a 30-carat diamond engagement ring worth $5 million gifted by the richest man on earth, we might be posing to okay, that ring was not just a diamond, it was a solar flare. You could probably track it with satellite data, and still Lauren made sure it glistened in every shot. And this isn't judgment, it's just observation. Because this whole relationship seems built on very performative energy. And then there is the comparison everyone keeps making, which is Jeff Bezos' first wife Mackenzie Scott, who walked away with half of Amazon and built a philanthropic legacy and didn't pose, and didn't perform, and wasn't best friends with the Kardashians. And if we are going to be brutally real here, Lauren Sanchez is exactly what people expect a billionaire's second wife to be: glamorous, always on, never off, and now very much part of the Hollywood influencer orbit. And honestly, it's kind of fascinating to see the public reaction, because some people are supportive, some people are mocking, but mostly everyone is just watching this transition from tech titan to reality show, and now the bachelorette party that became a whole global event is being dissected too, because it wasn't just a party, it was a headline generator. There were yachts, there were designer gowns, there were private islands. And of course there were the usual suspects: Kim Kardashian, Kris Jenner, Katy Perry, Eva Longoria. And when you have that many power women in one place, it is not just a gathering, it's a power statement. And this is where the conversation shifts from personal to public to cultural. Because when regular people see a destination bachelorette party in Europe with global celebrities, we start doing the math, not just emotional math, but financial math. Because let's be honest, how many of us are actually able to go to a bachelorette party in Italy, then come home, then fly out again to the actual wedding?
You know from growing up, because you struggled with dyslexia. So how did you get through that, and did that inspire this book?
This book is, I say all about that. It's for the 8-year-old self, me, who really felt dumb. And I did. I sat in the back of the class. I was just quiet, so they kind of pushed me along in public school, and I kept going. And then I really, really wanted to be a journalist. That's all I wanted to be. And I was like, I can't write. It was horrible. And then I went to community college, and I had this teacher, and she goes, I want you to write for the school paper. I was like, I can't really write. And she goes, well, just write without thinking about, every time I get really emotional, without thinking about spelling or punctuation. And I don't remember what the
Not
story
even
was.
subtle anymore, and when you look at her current best friends who are basically the Kardashians. And Katy Perry, you see what she's absorbing, you see the blueprint she is following. Because Kris Jenner is not just a mo-major, she is a cultural force. A woman who allegedly turned a family scandal into a billion-dollar dynasty. And now she's popping up in every other wedding photo, alongside Lauren Sanchez, giving her that exact same platform. And there's a difference between marrying into power and learning how to wield it, and it seems like Lauren Sanchez is not just marrying Jeff Bezos. She is actively transforming herself into a brand that can stand beside him, not just romantically but socially and culturally and economically. And that's where it gets real interesting, because we've seen versions of this before, but never quite at this scale, never quite with this kind of money and media saturation. And then you think, okay, what kind of wedding is this even going to be? Because rumors are it's going to be a $10 million affair in Venice with Lady Gaga and Elton John performing, which again feels like a metaphor for how disconnected this entire spectacle is from real life. Because when most of us think about weddings, we think about budgets and guest lists and awkward family dynamics, not hiring Sir Elton John and Mother Monster to serenade you under Italian stars. And maybe it's meant to be that way. Maybe this wedding is supposed to make you feel like you are watching a show, because in some ways that's what it is. And if we are being cynical, maybe that's the point. Maybe the whole engagement, the whole ring, the bachelorette, the destination, everything is part of a rollout, a lifestyle, product launch, and the love is real. Or maybe it's not, and frankly we wouldn't even know, because the performance is so well executed and the audience is global. And then you start wondering things like, do they have a wedding registry? And what? Do you get someone who literally owns half the economy? Do you get them a slow cooker? Do you get them a personalized cutting board? Do you send a $500 Amazon gift card to the guy who built Amazon? And when you get to that level, it's no longer
to-be's bachelorette party in Paris. In fact, the future Mrs. Bezos told the Wall Street Journal in 2023.
absurdly exclusive that even being near it becomes a form of currency. And that's what this is about. It's about visibility. It's about status, and Lauren Sanchez has figured that out in a way that is kind of genius and kind of unsettling and extremely entertaining to watch. And here's the part that a lot of people are whispering but not saying out loud: Jeff Bezos, you better have a prenup, like an iron wall kind of prenup, because we all saw what happened last time. And no shade to Lauren, but if this does not go the distance, we might be watching the second largest wealth transfer in the history of the internet. Because she is not just some woman, she is a woman who knows cameras and angles and narratives. And if there is no prenup, that becomes one of the most expensive performances of all time. And again, we are not saying she is in it for the money, no. One is saying that officially, but the optics do make you wonder. Especially when every move feels scripted, when every kiss looks rehearsed, and when every flash of the ring is perfectly lit and perfectly angled. And maybe we are all just jealous. Maybe this is what happens when you live in a society that makes fairy tales out of fortunes. Maybe we just don't know how to react when someone actually catches the golden goose and doesn't just roast it, but markets it, live streams it, and turns it into a lifestyle subscription. And this is only part one, because next we are going even deeper into what the wedding might actually look like, the way it's being staged, and the new celebrity alliances forming around Lauren Sanchez, who might just be the most strategic bride of the decade. So grab your coffee, keep scrolling, and let's unpack it all together in part two, because this ride is just getting started. So let's pick up right where we left off, because the story of Lauren Sanchez and Jeff Bezos is not just a relationship, it's a saga, it's a spectacle. It's a slow burn movie with unlimited budget, no director, and an audience of billions. And if part one was about the performance, then part two is about the production. Because now we are hearing details about the actual wedding, and it's the kind of stuff that makes even the most celebrity-soaked industry veterans do a double take. The rumor mill is churning, and what's coming out of it is wild. Like, we are talking about a $10 million open-air wedding on a private Venetian island, possibly featuring performances by Lady Gaga and Elton John, which sounds less like a wedding and more like a season finale of a prestige series filmed live in Italy. Now pause for a second and imagine sitting down at a ceremony and Lady Gaga walks out and belts shallow while Kris Jenner hands out the tissues and someone hands you a pair of designer sunglasses to protect your eyes from Lauren's engagement ring that still might be visible from space. It's also larger than life. And at some point it stops being relatable or even aspirational and becomes something else entirely, something almost mythological. And you start to realize we are not watching a wedding, we are watching modern royalty. Because when you are this wealthy, this visible, and this connected, a wedding is no longer just a private celebration. It becomes a public performance, a cultural moment. Every flower, every light, every dress is curated for impact. And when you look at the guest list, This is not your cousin's backyard party, this is Hollywood tech, music, and fashion royalty colliding. And somehow Lauren Sanchez is not just attending, she is hosting. She is not a +1, she is the blueprint, and this did not happen by accident. This was years of careful networking, of calculated visibility, of playing the fame game. Better than most, because Lauren was not born into this, she built it, and now she lives it. And as she walks into this $10 million spectacle of a wedding, she brings with her the ultimate rebrand from media personality to global icon. But while some are in awe, others are angry, because in a world where groceries cost more and rent keeps rising, this level of extravagance feels tone deaf, it feels surreal. And the internet cannot look away, because this is not just excess, this is a mirror. And not everyone likes what they see, and the media of course is fanning the flames, turning the whole thing into goals, into content, into something to sell. And that makes it worse, because it trains us to worship absurdity, to admire a lifestyle that most will never touch. And that is where the real conversation starts. Because maybe this is not just about a wedding, maybe this is about transformation, about power, about navigating a world where love becomes lifestyle and fame becomes currency. And Lauren Sanchez is now the face of that shift. She is the bride, the brand, the message. And as she steps into this new role beside one of the richest men on earth, we are all left asking, what happens next? What does life look like after the drone shots fade, after the applause dies down? Because marrying power is one thing, keeping it is another, and in a world built on performance, this wedding is just the season premiere of a much bigger show, and we will all be watching, whether we like it or not. Planning a wedding that could fund an entire city's infrastructure, and again, it's not her fault. It's not a crime to spend what you have, but it does create this ripple effect, this collective disorientation where the lines between aspiration and delusion start to blur. And that's dangerous, not just for viewers, but for the people at the center of it. Because when you start living in a world where nothing is off limits, where anything can be bought, where every emotion can be styled and posted, you risk losing touch with what's actually real. And that's when the prenup conversation stops being a joke and starts becoming a necessity. Because whether this relationship is built on love, ambition, chemistry, or all of the above, we have seen what happens when billionaire marriages end. We saw it with Bill and Melinda Gates. We saw it with Jeff and Mackenzie Scott. And no matter how cordial or clean the breakup is, the consequences echo across industries and headlines and bank accounts. And if Jeff Bezos did not get that prenup signed, then he might be writing history all over again. And Lauren is not naive. She knows the stakes. She knows the optics, and she knows that if anything goes wrong, she has positioned herself in such a way that she walks away with more than memories. And maybe that's cynical, or maybe that's just smart. Maybe in a world where love gets likes and marriages get media deals, you have to play the game to survive it. And maybe Lauren is just playing the game better than anyone else has in years. And the fact that people are still trying to define her as just a social climber or a gold digger or a former TV host who got lucky just shows how uncomfortable we are with women who weaponize charm and beauty and access the way men have done for centuries. And now that she's on this level, now that she's orbiting the Kardashians and commanding yachts and getting custom couture made for her every blink, she is rewriting her own mythology, one headline at a time. So where does that leave the audience? It leaves us confused, intrigued, amused, annoyed, inspired. It leaves us endlessly watching. Because love it or hate it, this spectacle touches something primal in all of us: the desire to rise, the fantasy of being chosen, the hunger to belong somewhere golden and untouchable. And as much as people mock Lauren for being performative or fake or fame hungry, the truth is she's doing what millions dream about. She's navigating a world that devours people and somehow thriving in it. And maybe the performance is the price, maybe the show is the shelter, and maybe all of us staring into our screens judging and reacting are just extras in her billion-dollar biopic. And coming up next in Part 4, we're going to explore how social media is shaping this narrative, how every wedding photo, every video, every dress becomes part of a monetized media moment, and what that means for all of us who live somewhere between curiosity and comparison. Because this wedding might be theirs, but the story belongs to all of us. So now that we've explored the spectacle, the planning, the money, and the performance, it's time to talk about the machine behind it all. Because in this era, nothing exists in a vacuum. Especially not a $10 million wedding with Elton John and Lady Gaga. Especially not when the bride is Lauren Sanchez and the groom is Jeff Bezos. And the cameras are never not rolling, because what we're witnessing is not just a private ceremony, it's a public campaign. And the engine powering it is social media. You see every photo, every video, every yacht ride and designer dress, every toast under Venetian stars is posted, curated, hashtagged, filtered, and shared across platforms like a living, breathing luxury magazine. And this is no accident, this is strategy. Because in 2025, if it's not online, it's not real. And Lauren Sanchez understands this better than most. She is not just getting married, she is building a digital archive of luxury love. She is telling a story in real time, and that story is being amplified by her powerful friends, her celebrity circle, and an internet that can't stop scrolling. And this is where the dynamics shift, because we are no longer just watching, we are participating. We are liking, commenting, sharing, discussing, turning her personal milestone into a global event. And that means the audience becomes part of the performance. We validate it, we extend it, we turn moments into memes, into conversations, into culture. And this is how modern fame works now. It is collaborative, it is transactional. And it is exhausting, because when every move is documented and every smile dissected, there's no space left for mystery. And that's both the power and the trap of digital celebrity. It allows you to control the narrative, but it also requires constant performance. And for someone like Lauren Sanchez, who has stepped into the brightest possible spotlight with the wealthiest possible partner, that performance has to be flawless and relentless. And that's why the aesthetic is so consistent, the lighting so perfect, the messaging so on brand. This is not someone who stumbled into fame. This is someone who studied it, who sharpened her image, who climbed into the algorithm and now lives inside of it. And people can roll their eyes and say it's fake or thirsty or desperate, but the truth is this is just how the game is played now. And if you don't play it, someone else will, and they will win and you will fade. And Lauren has no intention of fading, not now, not ever. And what makes this even more fascinating is the fact that Jeff Bezos has adapted to, maybe not as obviously, maybe not as fluently, but he's there. He's showing up on red carpets, smiling in selfies, participating in content that a few years ago would have been unthinkable for a man whose entire identity was once built around spreadsheets and shareholder letters. And this shows us something about the power of love, or maybe just the power of influence, because somewhere along the way, Jeff Bezos went from tech billionaire to Hollywood adjacent, and whether that was his idea or hers doesn't matter anymore, because now they are in it together. But here's where the deeper questions start to emerge, because when you give the public this much access, when you turn your wedding into a series of viral moments, when your friends are influencers and your private life becomes a public archive, what do you keep for yourself? What's left behind the curtain, if anything? And that's the tension at the heart of this entire story. Because while Lauren Sanchez is shining like never before, there's also a risk that the shine starts to blur the truth, that the constant posing starts to replace real connection, that the algorithm becomes the actual audience. And in moments like that, the relationship itself can start to feel like a brand collaboration more than a bond. And that's not to say it's not real. Maybe they're madly in love, maybe they whisper things to each other we'll never hear, maybe their connection is deeper than any of us can imagine. But when everything is public, when every second is strategic, we start to wonder, not because we are cruel, but because we are conditioned by decades of celebrity culture to look for the cracks in the perfect image. And it doesn't help that this entire wedding feels like an influencer launch party with $1 billion backdrop and 1 billion eyes watching from every angle. And so we keep looking, we keep analyzing, we keep wondering. And that brings us to the emotional economy of it all, because in a world where people build careers out of being followed, what does intimacy look like? What does trust look like when every friend is also a potential content partner, and every gathering is also a brand moment, and every declaration of love is also a headline? And for Lauren Sanchez, this is the new normal, and she seems to be thriving in it. But that doesn't mean it's not complicated, and it doesn't mean there won't be consequences, because fame like this never comes without a cost. And maybe she's willing to pay it, maybe she already has, maybe she knows exactly what she's doing and she's made peace with it. But for the rest of us looking in from the outside, it's a reminder that what we see is never the whole picture, and what we admire might also be what we fear, and what we mock might also be what we secretly want. And that's why this story keeps unfolding, not just on wedding blogs and fashion sites, but in our group chats and comment sections and late night conversations, because it touches something deeper than envy. It taps into our collective confusion about what success really means now, about what love looks like when it's monetized and filmed and shared, about what kind of future we're walking into when even the most personal milestones become public performances. And so here we are, caught between fascination and fatigue, watching this wedding like it's a trailer for a movie we didn't know we were starring in. And maybe that's the most honest part of all this. Maybe this isn't about Lauren or Jeff, maybe this is about us, the audience, the culture, the constant consumption, the way we elevate and destroy, the way we glamorize and criticize, the way we dream of luxury while drowning in debt. And as we get ready for part 5, the final chapter, we're going to explore what happens after the wedding, when the lights dim and the music fades and the algorithms shift and the audience moves on, because the real test of any relationship isn't the ceremony, it's the silence that comes after. And in a world that never stops watching. That silence might be the loudest moment of all now. We've reached the final chapter, the part where all the glitter settles and we're left wondering what comes next, because weddings, no matter how lavish or over the top they are, eventually end. The music fades, the guests go home, and the real story begins. And for Lauren Sanchez and Jeff Bezos, that story is going to be watched and analyzed and speculated on by millions, because unlike most couples, their lives are not private moments. Lives are not private moments hidden behind closed doors. Their lives are global broadcasts. And the stakes have never been higher. And so after the cameras turn off, after the last photo is posted, after Lady Gaga's final note echoes across the Venetian island, what happens then? Do they retreat to their billion-dollar homes and live happily ever after? Or does the pressure of being constantly watched start to crack the facade? Because the truth is, living under that level of scrutiny is exhausting. It's relentless, and it forces you to constantly ask yourself, who am I beyond the ring, beyond the wedding, beyond the viral videos? And that's the challenge that Lauren Sanchez and Jeff Bezos will face, and maybe they're prepared for it. Maybe they've already planned for how to protect their private selves from the public gaze. But maybe the wedding is just the opening act and the real drama is yet to come. And then there's the question of legacy, because when you're dealing with billions of dollars and global fame, your relationship isn't just personal. It's public history, and every move you make, every statement you give, every social media post becomes part of a narrative that will be told for years to come. And Lauren Sanchez is no stranger to narrative crafting. She's shown us that with every curated photo, every carefully framed smile. But now she has to decide if she wants to be remembered as the woman who married a billionaire, or the woman who transformed herself into a powerhouse in her own right. And that is the ultimate balancing act, because it's easy to get lost in the spotlight, to become a character in someone else's story instead of the author of your own. And Lauren Sanchez has already proven she's a skilled author, but can she keep writing her own chapters once the cameras stop rolling, once the wedding buzz dies down, once the world's eyes turn somewhere else? And for Jeff Bezos, this is also uncharted territory, because while he's mastered business and technology and wealth accumulation, he's still new to this kind of hyper-visibility, this kind of emotional theater. And while he's playing the part of the loving fiancé now, the future may demand a new role, a husband, a partner, a father figure, a man who balances empire with empathy and public with private. And that kind of transformation is never easy, and it's always complicated, and it's often messy. And if history has taught us anything, it's that money can't buy happiness, but it sure can make the fallout spectacular. And then we have to think about what this means for the rest of us, the audience, the fans, the critics, the curious, because in watching Lauren and Jeff, we're also watching ourselves. We're watching our fascination with wealth, our obsession with celebrity, our complex feelings about love and success and power, and how all those things intertwine in this digital age. And maybe that's why this wedding is so compelling, because it's more than just a ceremony. It's a cultural moment, a mirror reflecting back the best and worst of our society, and forcing us to reckon with what we admire and what we resent, what we dream of and what we fear. And so as we close this story, for now we're left with questions more than answers, because this is not the end, it's just another chapter in a saga that's still unfolding. And we'll be watching every step of the way, because whether we like it or not, Lauren Sanchez and Jeff Bezos have become a story we can't stop scrolling through. And so here's what I want you to think about when you close this video. What does it mean to love in a world that never stops watching? What does it mean to marry when your every move is public and monetized and performed? And what does it mean to find yourself when your entire life becomes content and your story becomes currency? Because in the end, that's the real wedding gift, not the diamonds or the parties, but the challenge of staying true to yourself in a world that wants you to be a spectacle. And maybe that's the hardest love story of all. Thank you so much for staying with me through this deep dive. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell, because there's always more stories to unpack and more perspectives to share. And as always, I'm grateful to have you here on this journey with me. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and keep questioning everything. This video covers legal allegations in a news context. All claims are from official filings, and no guilt is implied until proven in court. Please keep all discussions respectful. Allegations are not facts until proven in court.